In the jungles of Belize, a repulsive gnome punishes those who do not respect the forest.
Belizeans are very scared of him.
Maybe they even think it's devil's work.
If you believe in something strong enough, then you can bring it out.
If we don't have respect, then, he gets mad.
Watch out for the Tata Duende.
Tata is a little mean monster.
Belize, a splendid small Central American nation located south of Mexico. It's especially popular for its 250 kilometers or 155 miles of beaches overlooking the Caribbean Sea. But Belize, and in particular the Cayo region, has a rich Mayan heritage. More than half of the country is covered by tropical forests protected by the government. But in these lush forests lurks a monster that has fascinated and terrorized Belize for centuries. The Tata Duende. A gnome, at times good or evil. Grissy G and Dismas grew up here.
My grandpa always told stories about Tata Duende visiting the farm. So we grew up with it. Every weekend we'd go visit and we'd hear these stories. So it was very alive in my family.
A few years ago, the couple had an experience that left them perplexed.
We were driving along the cane fields. It was almost sunset. And Dismas and I were in the back seat. And we just started hearing like a little whistle following the car.
We could say like we were going maybe 45 miles an hour, and this whistle seemed to be following the truck. But not following like from behind and just tailing us.
Just going with us. It sounds like it's on the wind, is a way to explain it.
And it wasn't like a bird whistle, it's just a strange little hollow whistle. But the thing that was strange about it is that Grissy G's dad and one of his friends were in the front seat of the car, and they did not hear the whistle. And the both of them are like looking at us as if we were imagining it.
We got chills and we were like, whoa.
I like to say I'm an open-minded skeptic, so I'll question it to try to find logical explanations. But if we're both imagining it at the same time
and hearing it and feeling something weird,
throws you in a thing where you start to question your beliefs, and reality is like, is this a possible Tata Duende whistle? Or this does give us like a push more that maybe there is something more to it than just stories.
Right.
The million tourists who visit Belize each year have no idea that the country's jungle hides such mysteries. And Belize has one of the most diverse ecosystems in Central America, argues René Villanueva, a journalist and owner of one of the most popular radio and television stations in the country.
Of course I love Belize. And Belize is the most beautiful country in the world. The beauty about Belize is that it's 8,867 square miles. If you travel to any country in the world, you will not find the diversity you find in any 8,867 square miles. When it comes to waterfalls, lakes, lagoons, valleys, rainforests, we have it all packed here. The only thing we cannot give you is some snow.
And like its landscapes, Belize's population is a mosaic of variety. Besides, Belize is one of the only non-Spanish-speaking countries in Latin America.
Belize City was really founded in the 1600s. Well, the Europeans, who were the original pirates, brought across slaves from Africa through Jamaica to work in the mahogany camps.
The tropical forests of Belize have long been harvested for mahogany and chicle, a time when tales of monsters were very popular.
Oh, the myths and legends, they're numerous. We still talk about Tata Duende. A lot of people, some people use it to frighten their kids. They say, Tata Duende, I come for you. Because as a child growing up, I can remember hearing all these stories being told. And you actually are afraid.
Rosita Arvigo left her native Chicago to settle in the Cayo region and study medicine in the jungle with Mayan healers. She has since devoted her life to the protection of the forest. Her encounter with the Tata Duende was a supernatural event that changed her life.
I'm Rosita Arvigo. I'm a doctor of naturopathy. As an alternative physician in the 1970s and 80s, it was rather difficult to practice complementary, alternative, natural medicine in the United States. I spent 13 years as apprentice to Maya shaman Don Eligio Panti from San Antonio in Belize. The duendes, he explained, are the earth spirits. They're assistants to the 9 Maya spirits, and they come to announce the beginning of a dream vision and the presence of the Maya spirits. So I encountered them dozens of times before a dream would begin. So this one night, I was aware of a little body behind me. I looked down and I saw 2 little hands here and 2 little feet here. So I turned around and tried to look into this little creature's face, and it went right back at me and had this little round face that was all kind of hairy. The feet were on backward, and the hand had only fingers, no thumbs.
Grissy G and Dismas are on a mission. They have dedicated the last 10 years to reviving the legend of the monster that haunted their dreams as children.
We're both artists, animators, and authors. We were originally born in Belize, but we currently reside in
Los Angeles. We are documenting the myths that we remember as children, to preserve this kind of telling of the tales.
to document these oral traditions that we remember.
Even though we live in Los Angeles, we can't help, we think about Belize every day. So the book is kind of like our way of basically giving back to the kids to kind of revive this excitement and energy and love for these kind of things that we loved as kids, you know?
The duo created paintings and an animated film about the Tata Duende. They also wrote a book about the monster, The Legends of Belize.
Most Belizean, you ask them about Tata Duende, they'll have a story. So
Right.
it's like, it's part of us, it's ingrained. So the importance of it is connected to all that we feel that is Belizean.
The Tata Duende hides in the jungle, keeping discreet. But unlike other monster legends where descriptions vary wildly, here in Belize, everyone has a clear picture of the Tata Duende's appearance.
Most people say that Tata Duende is a little man that lives in the jungle.
They're 1 to 2 feet tall,
He usually has a beard and a hat.
and they have 4 fingers with no thumbs. So the children, whenever they go into the forest, they hide their thumbs because they believe the duende is looking to take somebody's thumb.
There is the idea that he is a spirit as well. So it's not necessarily a solid entity.
Usually his feet are on backward. So if you see a footprint with 3 toes walking, it's actually the duende going in the opposite direction because his feet are on backwards.
In Belize, the Tata Duende is widely feared. In the countryside, many even refuse to talk about it. An obstacle that Grissy G and Dismas had to overcome during their 10 years of research.
And while making the book, we interviewed a lot of our Belizean friends, and we'd go on road trips, and people we would see on the roadside and just ask them a question,
Right.
give us something.
One guy got mad at us because we asked about Tata Duende, and he really got mad at us and yelled at us because he said because we were asking about Tata Duende, we brought that bad spirit to him, and when he went to the jungle, the Tata Duende scared his hunt, you know, and the minute he was aiming to get the deer, something happened. He said like a whistle, and the deer went. So he said it's Tata Duende, and it's because of us.
He believes that the Tata Duende is they like to refer it to as a mala aire, like a bad air, and he said that it's everywhere.
Yeah, and once you say his name, you're attracting him.
But what do the words Tata Duende mean?
The Tata Duende, it's an interesting word. Tata is a Maya word that means a very revered, respected elder.
The duende itself, the word is derived from Spanish, and it's dueño, like a derivative from dueño, which is the owner, dueño del monte. He's the owner of the jungle.
Right. So it's the great revered master. How is it translated? And they are the lords, the dueños, the caretakers of the forest, the waterways, the rivers, the trees, and the plants.
For the historian Lita Krohn, the Tata Duende is more than a hideous gnome. It also has an educational role for young people.
You know, I've always been a teacher, either at the high school, at the junior college, and a couple stints at the university. The kids love these stories. They love these stories. Some of them teach you good manners. Some of them teach you traditions. Some of them teach you, you know, what to say, what not to say, how to behave. I always think of Hansel and Gretel, and they used to say, don't go in the forest. And these parents wanted to take care of their kids, so maybe they'd say, be careful, and they were right, because being in the forest, there's a lot of dangerous things there.
Parents, mothers, and caretakers of children often say, behave or the Tata Duende is coming for you. Finish your meal or I'll call the Tata Duende to come take you.
So a lot of these stories too, our grandma would tell us, you know, don't go play back there because the little duende will take you away if you don't behave yourself.
You know, sometimes in protecting things, you have to be scary. I think so. There's two sides to Tata Duende.
Belizeans are very scared of him, mostly. You don't want to get him angry because, you know, they won't be fun for you.
If he doesn't like you and he touches you in a negative way, you'll get a fever, you'll start to feel bad. Don't whistle, because that's what he does. You're not supposed to whistle.
They can tear your house up at nighttime. They put animal dung in the corn grinder. They urinate on the fire. They put your fire out. They break pots. And
he could maybe knock you out, take you to his cave.
Since he has power over the jungle, all of a sudden you might have a beehive following your ass, you know? It's just that you didn't know what Tata Duende would do. It was that mystery, you know, that like, oh my God, what could it do, you know?
Tata is a little mean monster, but he's being mean to the right people.
The Tata Duende calls the Cayo region home. It's located in the western part of the country, 1 hour from the capital of Belize City. San Ignacio, the district capital, is a quiet town of just 10,000 inhabitants, mostly farmers.
This is the market. This is where we get a lot of our healthy, fresh vegetables and produce that keeps us nice and young looking, you know what I mean?
Javier Molina works as a tour guide. He's particularly proud of his hometown.
What makes San Ignacio different from the other cities is the setting, the natural setting that it's in. This area is very mountainous, a lot of hills by the rivers, the two rivers that come and meet here in San Ignacio and create one of our bigger rivers, the Belize River, the lush jungle that's all around, the greenery. The spirit of Belize is very low-key, laid back, relaxed. You feel like time just is at a different pace here than other places. Very mixed culture, diverse culture. You'll find Hispanics here. You'll find Garifuna people here, as well as the Creoles. I can definitely still find Mayan roots all over Belize. All of these people come to this jewel that we have here, and they share. They become a part of us, and they create their own little culture, unique culture that is a combination of all these cultures that we know as Belize now. And I love this place. It's just so amazing here.
The Mayan presence in the region dates back several millennia. And unlike other similar sites in Latin America, the Mayan ruins of Belize are hidden in the jungle, far from the crowds of tourists.
Almost all of Belize was occupied by the Mayans. There were about 1 million Mayans living in this area known as Belize. And many of their temples still remain. These temples date back over 3,000 years.
The indigenous people, the first inhabitants of Belize were the Maya, as far as we know. The archaeologists will say Paleo Indians. Okay, well, they were the grandfathers of the Maya then. The Maya people do believe in Tata Duende, and it comes from their religious beliefs, you know. He's gone through the ages, at least 2,500 years. So he's a pretty old dude. This is a very rootsy thing. The Catholic Church didn't get into the Tata Duende.
But why is there almost no written documentation of its existence?
Because the Spaniards came to this world in the 16th century, and before that, all evidence was burned by the Spanish friars, right? All their 100,000 books were burned by Bishop Landa, so there may have been records, but they were all destroyed. But as far as any written documentation or eyewitnesses, it doesn't seem to go back beyond the 16th century. The Spanish friars who originally came here and studied the culture, studied the history, and that myth came out in like the 16th century. It was the first recording of the Tata Duende. All we have are oral versions, oral transition from generation to generation.
It was thanks to a strong oral tradition that pre-Columbian culture survived in Belize, and this method of cultural transmission is cherished throughout the country.
The different traditions passed down from generation to generation has been oral, through stories. I remember, you know, my parents and grandparents in the little villages around the fire and telling us stories. Definitely you grew up on a lot of oral traditions, a lot of different stories and folklores, like the Tata Duende and all these different mythical creatures that exist in the forest and in the jungles. The coming together of telling these stories is not happening the way it used to happen, and I think it's very important for us to try our best to capture and maintain for our future generations these stories, because if we don't do it now, then they will be lost forever.
We'd be boring if we didn't have Tata Duende. Super boring we would be. I think if you ever get rid of Tata Duende, we're not going to be in good shape. We have to keep him right up front. Oral tradition enriches who we are, and that's part of our Belizean identity, knowing all of these personalities of the rainforest and of the sea and of the river and all these places, because culture is dynamic. So maybe first you had the oral tradition, you know, written, TV. So there are other ways you have to keep moving with the times.
Hence the relevance of the approach of Grissie G and Dismas, who wish to restore the Tata Duende legend to its former eminence.
Do you think the Tata Duende or interpretation will affect our country?
I think it's going to bring an interest of another scope or another dimension, because, okay, people come here to see the beautiful Caribbean. You go to the rainforest, you go to the Maya sites, but this is going to give a deeper insight into Belizean culture.
Right.
Because we're not just sites, we're like a personality, and you know, it's who we are.
Right.
We're completely different from, say, someone living in Oklahoma.
Right, right. These are our monsters.
These are
right?
our monsters. We've got them. We've got a lot of them.
How do you feel about people that approach it like it's just a myth or it's just superstition?
There's some people that badmouth all these things that isn't a straight Christian thing. We're bringing out something that we've grown up with, and you'll have the takers and you'll have the people that won't accept. But I think you have to put it out there. It's unique. It's very unique. We have this multitude of folklore characters. It enriches our culture. It enriches everything.
Grissie G and Dismas continue their search for the mysterious Tata Duende. In a small village in the Cayo region, they meet Maria Garcia, a Mayan spiritual leader familiar with this jungle monster.
We still believe, you know, that everything is alive, everything have a spirit, and that there are special, entities or spirits that take care of this land, this forest that we call Tata Duende. We know that he is powerful, we know that he's secret, and that's why we do have a lot of reverence to him, If we don't have respect, then, he gets mad.
Of course, right.
It's not that he's bad, it's because he have a mission, he wants to let know his feelings.
For Maria Garcia, the Tata Duende is no mere legend. It's a flesh and blood monster.
My father used to tell us that. He says, it exists. And then when the religion came in, it's like kind of block it up, And then people say, those are stories, those are legends, that's not real. But he leaves signs that you can see that he's there. Believe me or not, recently, people from my village have been seeing it. Most of the, legends or the stories or the beliefs are spiritual. The only trace that you can see is when they play with your horse, when they trim the hair of your horse, then you see that it is physical, that he's there, but he is spirit.
It's during the night that the Tata Duende makes its appearance, which often includes braiding the manes of horses.
We are farmers, and the horses are the ones that help us in the field. 12 o'clock in the nighttime, you can hear the horse run. Run, run, run. And then my mom says, it's the duende riding. And after they finish riding, you can hear the horse blow their nose. And so, early in the morning, you get up and you come watch on your horse, their hair is trimmed. But they say that they trim the hair because that's where they put their foot. You can come and see how he trims it.
Wow, so this would be like his little...
Yeah, his...
what do you call it? Stirrups? His stirrups?
Mm-hmm. Here he puts his foot like this, and they just ride.
Rosita Arvigo also lives in the Cayo region, and like Maria, she has encountered the Tata Duende.
We once did a driveway. The work was started when I wasn't home. My son was here, and he cut down 3 trees, and every machine that he used broke 3 times over 3 days. And when I came home, I said, well, of course that's what's happening, because you haven't given an offering or asked permission to the duendes of this forest. That's just one example. You could hear thousands of stories exactly like that. Many things happen, especially accidents, when you're clearing the forest. If you don't ask permission and leave a small offering to the lords of the forest, who are the duendes.
And that's why we always, do ceremonies for all the spiritual entities that we have. We just cannot go up there and take, because the banana tree already gave, I will say, oh, that's mine. No. Because if we do things the way it is, by offering, by being humble to them, then he helps us protect our fields. But when we don't do things the way it is, then he gets mad. We have a dry season, we have floodings, we have insects coming to eat our fields. If we receive, we have to offer.
Grissy G and Dismas also want to ensure that they're in the Tata Duende's good graces.
Like 9 different incenses.
Wow.
And that's to cleanse. When we offer and we cleanse, then we purify ourselves. This is the copal.
That's the copal.
Oh.
But it's like a wax?
It's a sap.
Is it from a tree called copal?
Yes, this is one of our most sacred trees. That's what we are going to be offering.
And this altar, is it specially designed for?
Yes, that is how our Mayan people do their altars. We cut it from the forest, from the sacred forest. We ask permission because we are going to be making a ceremony. And so we cut them and we, put the altar so that we can put all what we are going to be offering. And then we are offering a lot of incenses so that he can feel, like rejoiced. He is an artist. He loves music, so he likes to play. So we have to offer him, a guitar. And then cigar, he likes to smoke cigars.
I've heard that.
so it's tobacco.
Okay.
Tobacco?
And then sweets, because they like sweet things. And then we have a special porridge that we do for them, which is sacred corn, and you put it to boil without anything. Then you're going to grind it, and that's especially for them. And these are wine.
When you make your offerings, you have your, I would say, internal prayers that you make?
Yeah, we do have our prayers. Well, it's passed down from generation after generation. We have to smudge everything too so that they can know that it's for them.
He's possibly watching us now?
Yes, he is.
Grisiji and Dismas pursue their offering to woo the Tata Duende. But will the mythical jungle monster appear?
When we make ceremonies, as soon as we start to put the altar and everything, you can see the difference. If it's hot sun, you can see that the cloud starts to get together. After it just rains, then the farmers can plant. This is from the sipche. This is a very sacred plant, and so whatever negative that we have, they get it.
So it'd be like a sponge for the negative.
You have to observe your negativity. I would love, the first one to come. Now we are going to leave this here, and in 3 days we are going to bury everything, because what we offer is for them, not for us.
Did you notice, Miss Garcia, how the breeze just started blowing and the
rain, and the rain started to drizzle.
Is that?
That's good?
Yes, it's good. That means that the elements are happy.
The minute I started.
The minute it started, the wind just kind of like blew in right through.
The horse started walking around the tree.
Kind of give you a little weird feeling, and then
It just felt like there's a strong energy.
very strange.
We have set borders. We're an independent nation. We have our flag. This is our political identity. But I think we also have a cultural identity. Culture in Belize, and culture in Belize is multicultural. We're having things come from Africa, things come from the Maya, things come from the mixture, the mestizo culture, But the Maya have ingrained a lot of beliefs in our whole system. I don't think you're going to find Tata Duende in a city. We have had a lot of rural areas for a very long time. I think he's more on the outskirts. Like most of our folklore, they're not urban dwellers, they're rural.
Today, 3/4 of Belizeans are Roman Catholic or Protestant, but that wasn't always the case.
Most of the Christian evangelists in Belize would say that we shouldn't believe in those things, and maybe they even think it's devil's work, or that the duende is an evil spirit, because they want people to turn away from the old ways and turn their face to the new Christianity. And the belief in those earth spirits is part of the ancient Maya way and part of the ancient Maya religion. They were lesser gods, so to speak. And of course, the modern Christians would rather that the Maya people put all that aside and no longer believe in the tenets of the Maya religion. It's very sad. That's what's happening to the culture. It's gradually being eroded by the needs of Christians to capture souls.
But is there any evidence for the Tata Duende's existence?
You're kind of looking for a scientific explanation, but there isn't.
I think he's got a spiritual identity, and I think he's got a real identity.
I think your mind is very powerful. If you believe in something strong enough, then you can bring it out.
It is faith in the unseen, belief in legends, belief in myths. But I see the Tata Duende as much more than a myth because just too many people have had encounters.
I personally haven't met him, but I have seen him.
The stories in my family about the Duende were that my grandfather was taken when he was young. He was playing in the woods, and he was led by this little creature that just, kept calling to him. And different people you would talk to would say, yes, your grandfather was taken.
Oh, because people think you're foolish or silly to believe in something that can't be proven, and it can't be proven that there is such a thing as a Tata Duende. It's a belief system.
Because if people say they've seen him, all right, who am I to say no?
But your life follows your thoughts. You believe in Tata Duende, then you will see Tata Duende.
I guess you either believe or you don't. If you have had experiences with them, and as I have, it goes beyond legend. It's something that you yourself experienced, and it's much, much easier to believe it when you felt it. And of course, that one time that I did see the little duende.
I've never seen Tata Duende. I believe in him. I believe there's something, there must be something if he's lasted for so long.
You can't really prove the existence of Catholic saints, but lots of people believe in them.
Whether myth or monster, the Tata Duende must be reintegrated in the culture of Belize, says Grissy G's best friend.
But they've been working on this for a long time, and I think it's such a powerful thing to bring back folklore. A lot of young people today either have never heard of him or in a very vague way, and it's so important to bring that back. Not because you need to believe, but because it's dogma, it's story. It's all about who we are and where we come from and our ancestry, and those things should never be lost. That's a part of our identity. So I think there's a lot of positive things to Tata Duende. He is anti-destruction of our natural treasure. So, sometimes children learn through fear, or, don't do this because there's a consequence, and that's what Tata Duende is about. He's a protector, and everybody needs a protector.
I think he's our first environmentalist, and he promotes moderation. He doesn't mind if you go hunting or if you go picking things from the tree, but don't overdo it. Just take what you need and leave. You don't have to get into big business over the rainforest, and I think that's the way the rainforest has survived. I think we need a lot more Tata Duendes.
Us like indigenous people, we love the forest. The forest is our home. So if we don't care, and take care of it, then what will happen?
Right.
The future generations are there, and we have to leave something for them.
So it is important to preserve it. So if this story is to preserve the rainforest or the jungles, it's a good one to teach.
If more young people, get into preserving the culture, the environment, our natural resources, I think we are on the right path.
Armed with their book and excerpts from their animated film about the Tata Duende, the tandem tours schools, introducing children to this mythical monster.
So we are going to stir up some stories and excitement from the kids tonight with Tata Duende. Hi guys! Now we're here today to share with you what we do. We are artists and animators, and we have documented our myths from Belize because we think they are part of our culture that makes this country so unique. And we'll be talking about Tata Duende.
So, no familiar with the Tata Duende? Good stories or scary stories?
Scary.
Okay, good.
Okay, cool.
Like we said, some people afraid of it, some people aren't. Some people believe in it, and some people think it's a lone cartoon. Some people believe that Tata Duende is a spirit.
Some people believe they are real, but they know how to hide very well, right? So that only when they choose to appear to you, right?
But the truth is that there is something, because the story comes from somewhere. And the story comes from our ancient ancestors. Hit the lights.
Start it off, all right? Let's go.
Start with the presentation. This is a close-up of what we believe the Tata Duende may look like. We interview people.
We talk to people in Corozal, in Belize City, all over, and it's just interesting how even though they're far away, they're like the characteristics of Tata Duende. They're like the same thing, and these beings are basically the guardians of nature, you know?
We do have an animated short to show you about the Tata Duende.
You guys ready? All right.
All right.
Yeah, man. No exam. They are monsters of fairy tales and scary stories. But in Belize, there are legends and folklore of terrifying creatures. Creatures so terrifying that accounts of them are passed down from the ancients, and these legends continue to be told. Tata Duende is a powerful spirit that protects the animals and jungles of Belize. Be extremely careful to not anger Tata Duende, for his wrath can be deadly.
So, thank you guys. So when you go home, and talk to your grandparents or your uncle and just ask them, bring this culture back. We all have the power to do it.
I had a very interesting presentation on Belizean folklore. My parents would also tell me stories as I went growing up. Apart from that, you know, it's put aside. So it's something that needs to be recovered and moved on from generation to generation. And some people might say, oh, they're just stories. But it's a part of the culture when you talk about here in Belize. Children growing up need to know about these things, and they need to pass it on to their children. It's part of their history.
The next stop on their tour, a return to the capital for an appearance on the popular talk show, Belize Watch. The host is also the owner of the premises, Rene Villanueva.
We started this organization 22 years ago in the ground flat of our home on Freetown Road with a transmitter between the toilet and the bathtub because that was the closest spot to the roof.
Here, Mr. Rene, the books are out. They're now on Amazon, and we hope you enjoy them.
Put together, we're going to talk about this evening.
Right, thank you.
Definitely going to talk about this evening. This is great stuff that is being done to preserve these parts of our history that are so important, so vital for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Grissy G and Dismas are preparing to make their television debut in Belize.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Belize Watch. It's a pleasure, honor, and a privilege to be with you on a lovely Tuesday evening. And what a show we have for tonight. We have the great Dismas. Welcome, Grissy G.
Yes,
welcome.
Thank you.
And it's good to see you guys again.
Glad to be here.
And joining us this evening are some young folks and some average young folks, members of the Imperial Band. So we're going to make a mixture of music and folklore this evening. They have put together a book titled Legends of Belize. a series about mythical creatures that dwell in the jungles and waters of Belize.
It took us 10 years to write the book.
10 years to put this together.
Right, with all the artwork. And we also put a lot of research into the different characters because we really wanted to tie it with the culture and also how we reflect in the world.
That the older folks, also older folks will know about Tata Duende. The younger folks are not too familiar with it. Have you all found that out as well?
Yes, that's why we started pursuing the book and continuing the series and took it so seriously because we saw that a lot of people, because of technology, they weren't talking to the family anymore and grandparents, and these stories weren't being heard.
I agree that because as a child I can remember the Tata Duende stories indeed.
There's the good part of him and then the bad part of him, right? And mostly that basically how you behave and how he reacts to you. So if you're a bad person, they hurt the jungle, they pollute.
You must behave yourself.
You must behave.
Right.
And also, the thing we love about it is these stories that what make us as one culture.
Of course.
You know?
And I want to thank you all and congratulate you on what you're doing, keeping our folklore alive, keeping these duendes alive. You guys will be playing some music for us this evening. All right, well, if we're ready, make we beat out some music, man.
Let's hope that Tata Duende is listening and, might show up.
This Tata Duende that wants to protect the forests may do useful work for Belize. The ecotourism sector is booming in the Cayo region, and the development of this promising industry is now a priority for this small Central American nation. Tourism already accounts for 12% of the local economy.
We subscribe to ecotourism and leaving things as natural as we can. Per capita, we'd have more marine reserves, more forest reserve, more river reserve, more lagoon reserves than any country around us. If you want natural things as natural as they can be, this is Belize.
Does the Tata Duende have a place in contemporary Belize? Absolutely, says historian Lita Crone.
If you ever get rid of Tata Duende, we're not going to be in good shape. We have to keep him right up front. He's a rebel. He's like saying, listen, if you can't take care of it, I've got to take care of it. And if I have to use scary tactics, I'm going to use scary tactics. That's the way the rainforest has survived.
You know, I guess I was taught that to fear the Duende was something that's scary, something you didn't want to run into. But eventually, as you get a little bit older, you realize that he's a good guy. He's just doing his job, which is protecting this beautiful jewel that we have, protecting nature and a part of Mother Nature.
To me, Tata Duende is just a folklore that was used to entertain. I haven't seen Tata Duende. Some people say they have seen him.
In America, there are elves and fairies. Very strong tradition of elves and fairies. The Tata Duende is like an elf or a fairy creature.
I've never had the privilege of seeing him. I don't know if I really, want to see him or not. I'm not too sure about that.
Sometimes they would be reluctant to admit that they have seen them or that they believe in them because they don't want to be ridiculed or laughed at. Me, I don't care. Laugh. I believe in them.
People are cutting too much forest. The forest is their home, so we just cannot cut it for them. It's like somebody comes and put fire on my house, then I don't have no home. And that's the same thing with them.
And I don't think it does any harm to believe, nor does it do any harm not to believe, unless you're going to cut down a tree.
As for Grissy G and Dismas, they intend to continue their quest to restore the Tata Duende's legacy in Belize.
It's an honor, like we're guardians of these myths, and now we have to make sure we can share them.
When we started our series, there was a map of the amount of virgin forest in Belize, and it was a lot. And then, but quick, within 3 years of that, we started to look at these news things, news articles and pictures that the forest is depleting like fast, acres and acres. So we really believe like a lot of these stories need to kind of come back and to remind people that this is important. This is life. This is what brings people
to our country, so don't destroy it, you know, you gotta take care of it. Because
the Tata Duende is everywhere.
In New Jersey, there lurks a strange monster that terrorizes anyone who ventures deep enough into the forests of the Pine Barrens.
I've driven through the pines a few times, but not with the top down. No way. Anything can get you.
Beware of the Jersey Devil.
God almighty, was that running? Something just ran across the road.
To most people, New Jersey is Atlantic City casinos, the beaches of Cape May, lush national parks, and the backdrop for the legendary television series The Sopranos. But this beautiful state and its rich history hide a secret, one that terrorizes some and amuses others, the Jersey Devil. Jerry Plumeri is among those who fear the Jersey Devil.
It was like 1964. And everybody went down the shore. Everybody went to Seaside. And we were on our way home from the shore, going through the pines, and we had a convertible with the top down. And all of a sudden, I heard this blood-curdling scream. This isn't normal, this wasn't human. I looked over in the trees and there was these lights, like two red lights like this. And it seemed to be something like swinging from tree to tree. I guess maybe about 2 minutes later, all of a sudden this thing flies in front of us. It was like 6 feet in front of us. And thank God, because we would have hit it. If he'd have came closer, we would have ran right into him. But he just stood there looking at us. I mean, we sat like this. He stared at us looking mean. And I'm thinking, he's gonna kill us. And we couldn't move. We couldn't even back the car up. We were too scared to do anything. Three of us just stared at each other. It was weird. It was really weird.
Most people laugh or give me a look like, yeah, right. And 3 of my girlfriends last night, I told about it, and they all just looked at me. One said, oh, I've heard about it, but, and I says, no, it's real. She didn't believe me. Honestly, I don't care if you don't believe me. I believe my mother.
Leeds Point in Galloway County is considered the birthplace of the Jersey Devil. It's here that the legend of the monster is taken most seriously, and the mayor, Don Purdy, is particularly proud of their most famous resident.
I own a towing company with 6 tow trucks, and I own a body shop, and I own an auto repair center, and then I am the mayor of the town. I don't think that we've ever put a number on the amount of people that travel to Galloway Township or Leeds Point to find the or search of the Jersey Devil. But I'm sure there's a lot that we don't know. You know from going around the state of New Jersey at different stories that you've heard, but it all comes back to here. You know, this is it. Galloway Township is the home of the Jersey Devil. Well, Galloway's pretty unique. Galloway Township is the largest municipality in the state of New Jersey. Depends on who's measuring it. It's 114 square miles. A lot of people measure some of the wetlands and so forth. It's a large community. It's really close to Atlantic City. Ken Suey is one of our great historians of Galloway Township, and Ken is a great guy in knowing the history of not only Galloway Township, but Leeds Point, because that's where Ken lives. And I think that there's history there, and I think as long as there's history, it will live. I believe that.
You are in Galloway Township Historical Society Library. We collect anything and everything to do with primarily Galloway Township, but we also have an Atlantic City room, and anything in the area of historical value we assemble and record, keep records on it, and keep it for posterity.
This small village of a few hundred souls was named after its founder, Daniel Leeds, a name as famous as it is common among locals.
There is but one Leeds family that was established in South Jersey. There was some other ones in New England, but the Leeds family that is established in New Jersey went ahead, proceeded. The first mayor of Atlantic City was Leeds.
Chalky Leeds.
Chalky Leeds.
Yeah.
Mayor of Galloway Township has been a Leeds at one point in time.
Yeah, Harry. Yeah, Harry Leeds.
Harry Leeds, and I'm married to a Leeds.
But the most famous of the Leeds is Jane, or as she's known here, Mother Leeds. This mother of 13 children influenced New Jersey for centuries, beginning in 1735.
It seems that Jane Leeds and her husband Daniel lived in a cabin at the edge of a great swamp along the Mullica River. Now, folks in these parts say that it was a strange family, an unusual family. Some people even said that Jane Leeds was a witch. One night, she learned that she was pregnant with her 13th child. And in a moment of understandable weakness, she said, as she was saying her prayers, "Lord, let this one not be a child. Let this one be a devil."
He was about 8 feet tall and like the head of a horse. And he looked angry, and he had horns. And his long arms had claws on the ends of it, you know, like it could really scratch you. The body was like all decrepit, sort of like the body of a horse, but not beautiful and smooth like a horse would be. And then like when a horse is up on two legs and they're going with their paws like this, the legs in the back are all crooked. Well, this is what he was, and he was walking on them like that, with hooves. And I'm telling you, I thought I was crazy. I didn't think I really saw this. And no sooner did he just stare at us like that for about 2 minutes, but 2 minutes is long when you're scared. He just sprouted his wings like this, which were humongous. They were really big, and just took off into the forest. Thank you for not killing me, seriously, because I could have been dead.
People who claim to have seen the Jersey Devil describe it as having a dog or horse's head, horns, a body like a kangaroo's, broad wings, a reptile's tail, hooves, and razor-sharp claws.
Someday in the late fall, listen carefully when you hear the wind coming off the ocean through the pines. It almost seems like someone is trying to tell us something, possibly someone's name. Oh, Mother Leeds. Oh, Mother Leeds.
But how does a woman from America's colonial era give birth to the devil?
Well, we do know that it was an unusual family. It was a very large family. It had 12 children. And Jane Leeds, her problem was not really with her husband. Daniel, he was a good hunter, an excellent fisherman, a decent gardener. There was always food on the table. That wasn't the problem. The problem was that Daniel Leeds didn't take very much interest in the children. And so Jane Leeds was left with the cleaning, the cooking, the laundry, chopping wood, picking things up, putting things away. To tell the truth, she was at her wit's end. She was frustrated. On that frightful night in February of 1735, when Mother Leeds' 13th child was born. It started out a perfectly healthy, normal little baby boy with blonde hair and blue eyes, but then something went terribly wrong.
My name is Rochelle Christopher. I am an independent historian with Victorian Vanities. My organization teaches people about American history. And one of the things we look at generally in the show that I do on Weird New Jersey is the New Jersey Devil. And I did see it once. I'd been driving for a couple of hours. I was between Cape May and Stone Harbor, and it jumped out in the road. And of course it then flew away. Mother Leeds gave birth. The devil apparently was a beautiful baby boy. Soon after he was born, he grew talons and horns and wings unfurled from his back and very long legs. He went into the next room where the midwives were, and his father killed his father and mother, killed other children cowering in the corner, killed his mother, and then flew up the chimney, leaving all of this rubble behind.
The tranquility of Leeds Point residents is sometimes disturbed by curious travelers looking for the very source of the Jersey Devil legend. The first stop on their macabre pilgrimage? A house built on the ruins of the legendary residence of Jane Leeds.
There are cults who believe in the New Jersey Devil, and some people believe this is the neighborhood, this is the house. They're going to threaten, they want what they want, which is to burn down the house if they can't take pictures, to do seances, to conjure it up, but they're looking for a connection to the devil, which this lady who owns the house claims is not here. There is nearby a cemetery. It's called Leeds Point Community Cemetery, and it has maybe about 40 or 50 stones in it, and there were kids from Stockton, students from Stockton University, and they did a seance up there, hoping to conjure up something.
History and folklore mingle in the legendary stories of the Jersey Devil. One of the most famous of them features none other than Napoleon's brother, Joseph Bonaparte.
There's a wonderful story about Joseph Bonaparte, the older brother of Napoleon, who lived in Philadelphia while he was waiting for his house to be built in Mount Holly. And he had an encounter with the New Jersey Devil. And apparently he looked at it with his gun, and the New Jersey Devil looked at him, and they both looked at each other, and finally the devil flew away. Well, Joseph Bonaparte swore that he was going to find the devil and bring it home as a trophy. Of course, he never saw it again.
But it was in 1909, during the week of January 16th to 22nd, that the Jersey Devil made its most famous appearance, throwing the entire country into panic. Monster sightings occurred in Atlantic City, Philadelphia, and outside New York City. The newspapers picked up the story, and the Philadelphia Zoo even offered $10,000 for his capture.
1909, the week when everybody said they saw it. That was the week when the New Jersey Devil was seen all over southern New Jersey, but it flew away. It was seen in Bridgeton, and it flew away. It was seen by a group of people on a trolley car in Camden, and it flew away. And that seems to be the story. They saw it, and it flew away. And everyone on the trolley car said they saw it. It made an appearance on a rooftop. Adults in Philadelphia and Camden were afraid to send their children to school because they were afraid the New Jersey Devil was going to make its appearance.
Paul Evans Peterson Jr. is one of those who believes in the legend of the Jersey Devil. He devotes his free time to organizing monster hunts and writing songs about New Jersey and its history. He even wrote a book, The Legendary Pine Barrens, New Tales from Old Haunts.
Yeah, my name is Paul Evans Pedersen Jr. I am a singer, songwriter, author, and jewelry maker. And I live here in the Pine Barrens of South Jersey, and I've seen the Jersey Devil.
When Jerry Plumeri saw an ad in the local newspaper announcing a conference hosted by Paul Evans Pedersen, she jumped at the opportunity to share her terrifying encounter in the summer of '64.
I kind of like put it in the back of my mind because everybody thought I was nuts. So I ignored it. And now, mind you, years and years are gone by. This was 1964. When I saw in the newspaper, they're having this talk at the library. Paul Pedersen is going to, he writes books about the Jersey Devil. And I said, you know what, I got to go see this. There's something telling me to go. And I sat there in the second row because I knew I was going to talk to him. And I'm in the second row and he's talking. I was mesmerized by his talking because he saw the Jersey Devil 5 times. And he said, has anybody seen the Jersey Devil? So I went like this, real meek, because I'm thinking, these people are going to think I'm nuts. But you could hear a pin drop in the room. You made this your life thing.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never saw his face. I saw it hopping away from me.
Ooh.
And I heard it coming up my cellar steps and banging on the door.
But never came face to face?
Never came face to face with it. Nope.
Let me ask him if you remember.
I'll write a book called I Shook Hands with the Jersey Devil.
That'd be great. I'd love that. Me too.
I shook claws with the Jersey Devil.
If the Jersey Devil was born in Leeds Point, he hides in the forests of Pine Barrens. Today, Jerry Plumeri and Paul Evans Pedersen meet at the visitor center of the Pine Barrens Preservation Alliance, on the edge of the forest where the monster last appeared.
Doesn't he? No. Do you want me to tell the truth? He doesn't look anything like what I saw. What I saw was about this tall, but these are like real hands. He didn't have real hands, they were claws. And the legs didn't know nothing like this. It was like a horse when it was standing up on its hind legs, where the back legs are bent, and he had hooves, which he has hooves, and a long tail. But a head of a horse, but this looks too gentle. He didn't look gentle, he had red lights for his eyes and horns.
So a lot of people down through the years have seen it and have shot at it. I have a friend of mine that shot at it 3 times.
See, you don't hear about it for a long, long time.
Right. Well, they say that anytime you see a lot of sightings of the Jersey Devil, it means a war is coming. One of the best ways to protect yourself from the Jersey Devil is you got to find these tracks. And this is a story that goes back to me and my grandkids, or my kids when my kids were little. And I would tell them, you got to get a little shovel and dig the track real carefully and put it into a glass jar and screw the lid on it and keep that jar under your bed. And as long as you keep that track in a jar under your bed, the Jersey Devil will never hurt you.
Wow. They all think we're all nuts in Jersey. Yeah, no, seriously, they do.
Between the Jersey Devil and all the people in the malls, we are crazy.
Right, really, when you come down to it, the Jersey Devil. Now, where do you hear that? Any other state?
Yeah. All the stories that have ever been told about the Jersey Devil are born right there. Yep. That's it. That's where it all comes from.
The Pine Barrens is 4,500 square kilometers or 1,700 square miles of dense forest bordering the Atlantic coast south of the state of New Jersey. In 1978, it became the first nature reserve protected by the U.S. government. People come here to get lost in nature. Some come to chase monsters. It is said that come nightfall, campers often find themselves more than a little unnerved.
All right, what we're going to do right now is we're going to go through the like the heart of the Pine Barrens, and we're going to be looking for Jersey Devil tracks. And if we can, you know, you never know, we might see something. The correct behavior is just to pay a close attention to what's going on in the woods, not disturbing anything, because there's like 30 different kinds of plants that grow there and nowhere else that are on the endangered species lists. There's a lot of animals on the same list, endangered species. And we're just going to watch the woods and see what comes out of it. And if we see the Jersey Devil, this has a really good reverse gear. And we'll be putting it in reverse and getting away from it. Welcome to New Jersey. When I go hunting for the Jersey Devil, I like to go either right in this area, back along the Mullica River, or down in Cumberland County, which is closer to the Delaware Bay than it is to the Atlantic Ocean. That's number one, that's why I keep a compass in the car. But as long as I know where the sun is, I'm usually pretty good about not getting lost. But I've been back here before, and it gets very frustrating if you don't know where you are, and you can get yourself really lost back here. And I mean for a whole day. Maybe, and if it gets dark, forget about it. If you don't know what the hell phase the moon's in, you're going to stay out there. I love it out here. This place is my heart, man. It really is. And ever since I've been a little kid, I just keep coming back out here, and I've tried to learn everything I can about all the different species of plants and animals and about the people. It's just a really special place.
The earth in the Pine Barrens is sandy, which caused many European settlers to leave the area in search of more fertile land. Since then, this vast territory, which occupies nearly a quarter of the state of New Jersey, has been considered an inhospitable land. But this is a mistake, according to historian Kenneth Suey.
This would have been a paradise for people that were establishing housing, first coming down. I have fuel, I have fire, I have water, I have fish in the water, I have food. I have cranberries that can grow here. They had the necessities of life. I don't consider us barren at all. Just look around you. Do you see anything barren about where we're at? I mean, water lilies, holly, magnolias. We have it all. Yeah? We're only going to go a little further.
It is here that the Jersey Devil has made his home. The monster has been known to take long drinks from the deserted swamps of the Pine Barrens. Another favorite haunt of the Jersey Devil, the ghost town of Batstow. This uninhabited village dates from 1766, almost 30 years after the birth of the monster.
The Jersey Devil has been seen here through the years. This village was started in the 1700s, and it was started as a ironworks. And they made iron stuff for the colonists. And during the Revolutionary War, they made munitions and stuff for the Revolutionary War fighters. And after that, in the 1800s, it was turned into a glass works. And they made window glass, what they call window light. And the state of New Jersey has preserved it. And it looks pretty much like it did back in that time. Over the years, the Jersey Devil's been seen here several times, or reported seen here several times by, residents, workers. And this is the area where the sightings are very prevalent. It's right around here, because we're not that far from the back bays. The Batstow River's right through here. Batstow Lake is right over there. And it seems that the Jersey Devil prefers areas where there's water. So in areas like this is, you know, where you're going to see it. Yeah, he's quiet until he starts screaming at people. And that's mainly what you hear about, is people hear it. They hear this ungodly scream that they can't, you know, put their finger on what kind of animal they've ever heard in their life made that scream. And a lot of your quote-unquote sightings are actually hearings, you know, people that have heard whatever this thing is. And now we're going to go back into Bulltown Road, which is another kind of like a village back here where it's been seen a lot. So, if you fish where there ain't no fish, you ain't going to catch them. If you go looking for the Jersey Devil where he ain't going to be that day, you ain't going to see it.
How did the Pine Barrens become synonymous with fear and danger in the minds of the residents of New Jersey? Over the centuries, some people have had a personal interest in cultivating the mystery of the forest.
The Pine Barrens, because it's so sparsely populated, is a good place if you want to carry on illegal activities, because who's going to see you? So, for example, in the early days of the Republic, Alexander Hamilton had the idea to collect duties at the ports. So ships coming from Europe might go to New York or Philadelphia, and when they pull in, the tax collector was there to collect the customs duty. But let's say you don't want to pay the taxes. Well, maybe you could take your ship to Barnegat Bay or to Tuckerton and come ashore with the goods loaded onto Conestoga wagons, which could take the goods to New York and Philadelphia. You would increase your profits because you didn't have to pay the taxes. Now, naturally, you don't want revenue officers coming around. And so you tell people the story of the Jersey Devil. You know, when outsiders come around into the woods, they often don't come out. And it was a mode of intimidation.
Small, sandy roads crisscross the Pine Barrens. In New Jersey, they are called sugar sand roads. And of course, to venture on them increases your chance of coming face to face with the Jersey Devil.
God almighty, was that running? Oh man, something just ran across the road. This is where, if you're gonna see something, this is where you're gonna see it. The Jersey Devil has been seen, or reportedly seen, and this is one of the main roads that they have the Jersey Devil hunts on. Because this is pretty much in the middle of the Pine Barrens right here. This is smack dab in the middle of it.
I've driven through the pines a few times, but not with the top down. No way. No. Anything can get you. Anything can drop out from the trees.
Even today, many people, sane, trustworthy people, say they believe in the existence of the Jersey Devil. There have been over 2,000 reported sightings, but what did these people really see?
A lot of people have said they've seen it. Could be anything. Could be drunk, could be tired, could be they want attention, could be they saw something. I can tell you that I don't believe in it, but when I drive through the Pine Barrens at night, there is something. It is creepy, and I don't know what it is.
There are explanations, and many times my colleagues, fellow scholars, have come up with hypotheses to explain away what people saw, but they think they saw the Jersey Devil, but it's really something else. One is like the fruit bat, because bat-like wings, okay, we're halfway there, and it's night, and it's in the woods, and you're not familiar with wildlife, and you're scared, and you know the story already. Well, the Jersey Devil pops into your mind as an explanation for what you saw. So bat would be one possibility. Far more plausible is the great horned owl. The great horned owl has quite a wingspan and makes clicking noises, and coming at you at night in the woods could be frightening enough. And again, if you already know the story of the Jersey Devil, you might mistake the great horned owl for the Jersey Devil.
I have fished, trapped, and hunted for most of my life. I've been out in the bays, in the woods, in the swamps, at every hour of the day and night. I've heard some really strange noises, which I have to attribute to being animal noises of one type or another. But I do not believe that there's a Jersey Devil. I believe it is a legend.
It's really kind of a lousy feeling when you're trying to tell somebody something and they're laughing at you. It's supernatural. And a lot of people are interested in that. I know I am. I mean, I watch some crazy shows, you know, Thriller and all that. I watch some crazy shows, but this wasn't a show. This was true. So I don't see how they can't believe when there's people like me, and I know there's other people that's seen them. And I'm telling you, word for word, and I never changed my story when I told it to Paul. I've never swayed from the story. It's the truth. I'm not making it up. But like I said, a couple of my friends think I'm off my rocker. They think I'm making it up for attention. No way.
The last stop on the trail of the Jersey Devil, the Washington Tavern, the only remnant of a village long gone.
This is as far as we'll go. The ruins are right over there. This is the site of the Washington Tavern. And this is one of the best places, if you listen real close, you will see how absolutely dead quiet it is. You can see how old this growth in here is. This has been here a long, long time. And it's amazing, any time of year you come here, it's always this quiet. It's like everything else is afraid to live around here. And that's part of the legend, that at the birthplace of the Jersey Devil, no animal, birds, anything. It's very strange. Very strange. Gives you a chill every time you come down here, and I've been coming down here for a long while. There's basically a clearing over here. The Jersey Devil has been sighted a lot here. And it was one of the hangouts of Joe Mulliner, one of the pine robbers. And like I said, this is all that's left. But this was a tavern built out here in the middle of nowheres now. But back in the day, this was quite the place to be. And now it's just a ghost town.
In the time when these ruins were a village, legends about monsters had significant resonance in the community.
Ever since the 20th century, there have been forces working against these traditional stories. I mean, in my romantic imagination, I can see, say, in the 19th century, the village storyteller sitting around the potbelly stove in the general store, regaling people with stories, and people with fiddles and banjos having a Saturday night dance. In the old days, people made their own entertainment. They made their own music, they told their own stories. Our culture doesn't really support leisurely storytelling anymore.
And that's kind of like the foundation, and the floor would have went across. And that was the basement of it. This all used to be brick, and it's disappearing. So even just standing here, you gotta wonder. It really feels like you're being watched.
The story of the Jersey Devil has been passed down for 3 centuries, and along the way it has undergone some changes. The commercialization of the Jersey Devil was inevitable, but it had some positive and some negative consequences according to folklorist Angus Gillespie.
The traditional stories of the Jersey Devil, and I think this is something that's very hard for contemporary audiences to understand, in the original versions, among the old families of South Jersey, this is an awesome, fearsome, nasty, dangerous creature who's said to have slit the throats of babies in their cribs. This is a creature that's monstrous and evil. Since we have, for the last several years, this hockey team called the New Jersey Devils, there's a lot of name recognition. I mean, people almost worldwide, certainly in North America, recognize the name, but they don't really know the story. And the other problem is, over time, and particularly in places like Smithville, which is very close to Leeds Point, you have like souvenir shops selling T-shirts, shot glasses, pennants, postcards, and the usual representation is of the Jersey Devil as a kind of a cartoon character who's kind of cute. From my point of view, I mean, that's all wrong. I mean, this is not clever or cute or cartoon-like. This is awesome and scary and frightful.
Once feared, today the Jersey Devil is celebrated. Even New Jersey native Bruce Springsteen has sung about the devil. Everyone embraces the Made in New Jersey legend, and everyone has their story to tell.
And I was a kid riding a bike down there one time. My dogs were with me, the dirt road back there in Kings Highway, and something came out of the woods, made a noise. My dogs like chased it through the woods. They were barking and all this stuff. I don't know what it was this day. But I've hunted all around here all my life. And you just hear all the Jersey Devil stories, and then I'd be in the woods, you'd hear some screaming. People said, it's just a fox. But I don't know what it was. I'm 49, and I've been told this stuff since I was little. Who knows if it's true? I mean, I sort of believe it. It's like Bigfoot. I believe in Bigfoot.
As a kid, I saw it as real. As a kid, I certainly saw it as real. Especially you go to the local library and they have all the old Jersey Devil documentaries, like, you know, oh, we saw something rustling in the woods. You know, it's I loved it. I loved it. You know, just having that bit of imagination to what might be lurking in the woods, and there's plenty of woods for it to lurk in too. I talk about it all the time. I talk about it anybody that'll listen, pretty much. So, well, I have plenty of relatives that have claimed that they've heard
mostly heard the Jersey Devil, something rustling in the bushes. I think it's usually probably just a deer screaming, but I like to believe them when they say they heard it.
But even those who believe in the monster don't necessarily think it's dangerous or means to harm anyone.
I just think he's scared, and I think he's lost and doesn't know where he belongs. And maybe he just wants to reach out, but everybody's so scared of him because he looks like what people would call a freak, not to be mean, but he doesn't look normal, and people get scared of that. And he's become the devil. If he was the devil, he would have killed people. Yeah. He would have attacked people. So I think devil's the wrong word for him. I think he's just one of our many wonderful people to add to Jersey.
I asked Paul how in the world this thing is still alive if it was born in the 1700s. Because let's face it, come on, that's a long time ago. And he says it reinvents itself. The first thing I said, well, who does he mate with? I mean, there's no other monsters. Who does he mate with? But the thing is, it's there. It's really there. But he doesn't hurt anybody. That's the main thing. I think that's pretty cool. He's sort of like in limbo. He's roaming around and has no place to go.
As a professional folklorist, it's my job to be a professional agnostic. I don't want to be too skeptical, and I don't want to be too gullible. Besides, when I'm interviewing people, I have to show respect. And if somebody believes in the Jersey Devil, I'm not going to disabuse them of that. I want to draw them out. And I think it's easy enough to find skeptics. It's harder to find true believers. And it's harder yet to find a true believer who will go public with her story.
We didn't see him, and it's there's been a lot of people down through the years that go on Jersey Devil hunts, and with all kinds of equipment, with all kinds of detectors and electronic stuff and this, that, and the other thing, and that's not usually when it happens. Hopefully we could have had it happen, but it didn't. Of course, the day's not over yet. You never know. It's a long ride back to Hamilton. But usually it's somebody down here fishing or hunting or just going for a walk, and the thing will come out and stand in front of them or jump in front of its car, and that's when it's seen. It's at the strangest times or the most unexpected times. And anytime you come to this part of South Jersey, could be the time you see it. And every time I come down here fishing or just taking a ride with a wife and taking some pictures, that could be the time that you look right into its eyes and it's Jersey Devil.
In the backwater marshes where the cranberries grow, the water takes on the color of wine as it flows. And every evening the sun's fire drowns in the bay, and all the creatures that live here, they have their own special way. And I swear it's true, these pine barren blues, the folks that live in the barrens, they have a story they tell. They say the old Leeds woman, she bore a child from hell. The night he's born, he took wings off and flew out into the night. They say you still hear him screaming when the conditions are right. And I swear it's true, these pine barren blues.
Every time I go down there, I might not say anything to anybody else, but in my head, I'm thinking,
You're looking in the trees.
I'm looking in the trees. I'm, you know, even when I'm driving, I'm looking just to make sure, because you just never know. You don't know.
I think it has to do with the weirdness that is New Jersey. If you're at all interested in the weird, New Jersey is probably the home of the weird.
The next time you go into the woods late at night, take care. And when you hear the sudden crack of a twig behind you, beware. Beware of the Jersey Devil.
In the far northwest reaches of the American continent, a massive gorilla-like biped.
You know, I was shocked for a minute that this, is it an animal, or could I call it a person or whatever, that it disappeared in front of me.
Stalks the forest with slow, heavy strides. Locals call him Sasquatch. Canada's Yukon Territory, a wild land with some 484,000 square kilometers of forest, populated by 250,000 caribou and just 35,000 inhabitants. There are no skyscrapers and few highways here. Nature's vastness provides the only backdrop. Here, the great outdoors is a way of life. Yukoners never hesitate to wander in the forests. But some locals have heard strange noises. What they fear is Sasquatch, Bigfoot's Canadian cousin, a hairy monster of imposing proportions. On July 12, 2011, Ed Trichter had the surprise of his life.
Okay, let's go down here where it actually started. At the time when this happened, I lived up here, and I came down here quite slow, and I didn't pay much attention to anything till I got past this telephone pole here, and all of a sudden I see something walking there. And I came up beside it, and I said, that's a Sasquatch. Man walks like this, right? He walked like this. And he kept a good pace, you know. And I drove up right up front, and I said, I'll wait till he comes around the telephone pole, and he was gone. I was, you know, just sort of looking. I said, what's going on? Never saw him again. Disappeared right there. It's a mystery to me. I sort of said, wow, I better not tell anybody about this. Because it was 2 years before I told my daughter. Because I didn't want to be called crazy. You never know.
His daughter, Rhonda, chose to believe her father. After all, up here, Sasquatch sightings are common.
We're just sitting there nonchalantly, and we're eating, and he's just like, oh yeah. You know, we're coming home one day, I seen there's Bigfoot. I'm like, huh? Where? And he said, well, down the hill. So, he showed me, but it was just like nothing, just blurted it out as we're eating. But then when we walked today, with the dip, it made it taller. Because when he said it to me, it didn't sound as tall. But then after we went and stood in the ditch, then it's like that would add about a foot. So that's pretty awesome. You know, be neat to see.
Rhonda insisted that her father share his secret.
Well, I knew Red is doing Bigfoot and stories and that, so I thought, I've got to tell Red. So I told Red. Red wanted to know if he could get hold of Dad and talk to him. I said, I'll ask Dad, and I told Dad that Red wanted to talk to him, and he was agreeable. So, and then that's how it all started.
The Sasquatch expert she's referring to is Red Grossinger, a veteran of the Canadian Army who has been passionate about the Sasquatch since 2003. He has published a book, The Sasquatch Research Manual, and spends much of his free time tracking the monster.
Through my years visiting around the Yukon, people have told me stories. So since 2003, I've been really digging into the history of Sasquatch.
He was sort of, and he's going like this. That was fascinated me, you know.
Red has had dozens of meetings just like this one in recent years. They all have one thing in common. Witnesses are reluctant to go public.
He had always kept that story secret. He might have told something partly to some people which thought that he was only joking. Just recently he came out with it.
Rhonda always says, carry the camera, you see.
Well, I ordered a couple of goats. I believe he's German descent. He's a white person. And I found a lot of time the white folks are not quite as open to deal with the Sasquatch. For them, it takes a while to understand it more. So. Something I ordered something.
That's good.
It was just a few kilometers from Whitehorse that Ed saw the monster. With 28,000 inhabitants, it is the largest city in the Yukon. Of course, Sasquatches are not an everyday sight. Even here, nature is not far away. Whitehorse is the last trace of civilization before the terrain gives way to endless, unspoiled forest. And the man who directs Whitehorse's affairs is particularly proud of his city.
Hi, my name is Dan Curtis. I'm the mayor of the city of Whitehorse, Yukon. I was born right over there in that hospital, right across the river. So we're a few meters away from my birthplace. Yeah, it's good. It's been great. I love the Yukon. I think we all do. I think the thing that makes us so special is the people. The people are fantastic here. Many places in Canada and the world, I think you have to be from there and live there for your whole life, for generations, to be really accepted. But here, it accepts you and you choose it, and it chooses you. So. And tourism is a huge component for us as well. It's the largest employer outside of government. One of the things I'm not so proud of is our traffic. Rarely do they stop in time. So you're really taking your life in your own hands when you're traveling on our streets.
What distinguishes Whitehorse from other cities north of the 60th parallel is its monster, of course.
Sasquatch, quite a bit actually. It's been quite a legend within our First Nations for many, many years. It's something to be pretty cool if they did find one, but we do have so much density within the Yukon. There's areas that very few people get to. So it's quite feasible that if one exists, it could very well be within the borders of Yukon. And I think for the people I've talked to and the sightings I've heard about, this is the place.
Up here, everyone has their own Sasquatch story.
I think a lot of people would have more of a fear surrounding it, for sure. Like it's like some kind of a predator, right?
It sounded big, like a big, something bigger than a wolf or a dog, or it was like nothing I'd ever heard in my life before.
Nothing predestined Red Grossinger to a life of Sasquatch obsession. This retired military man's passion developed after an extraordinary experience.
I was out fishing with a friend of mine on Frenchman Lake, which is about central Yukon. And we were enjoying fun, nice sunny day, no wind at all. We were in a small bay and all of a sudden came a strong smell. Something I've never, ever smelled in my life. To me, it was something that smelled like a mix of dirty baby diapers with dog manure and pig manure. And if you mix them together, it would come up with that stink. And something that burned my eyes, actually. I mean, I was crying, it burned so much. And there were no birds chirping around at all. No squirrels running. It was like in a dead zone. Now, being a bit curious, I decided to find out what it would be. So that got me going, and since that day, I've been doing research.
The Sasquatch is a biped standing 8 feet tall, its body completely covered with long black hair. Its feet measure some 24 inches. This colossus burns 7,000 calories a day to survive and is said to be lonely but fearful of humans. It is heard in the forest by a loud, ear-piercing screech.
The nose could almost be described as a nose of a fighter, where it's fairly wide and on the male, genitalia are not quite visible because of the hair again, but the breasts of the females are very visible. Somewhere here, there we go. Notice the torso is so big as well, and the head is fairly small as compared to the rest of the body. I have a footprint here of a Sasquatch, and that you cannot be mistaken for anything but a Sasquatch.
Christopher Reynolds is a journalist for the White Horse Daily Star, which was founded in 1900, making it the oldest daily paper in the Yukon. Chris was born in Toronto, but he has made the Yukon his new home.
The Sasquatch, it's sort of this mythic specter, or not necessarily mythic, lingering in the collective consciousness, you could say, of the North.
Let's see here. What do we got here? Here we go.
I think when Red Grossinger arrived in the Yukon, he revived an interest that had only been vague and not really officialized in, say, newspaper pages.
These red dots are where Sasquatch had been either observed or there was footprints.
And the fact that he was involved with this Canadian Sasquatch Research Organization lent, in some folks' eyes, a measure of credibility.
In 1967, 2 California filmmakers captured on film what they believed to be a Bigfoot. Despite having its validity challenged by scientists, the footage sparked a storm of interest. From the Yukon to Northern California, budding cryptozoologists emerged with an interest in large, hairy bipeds.
That film has been analyzed and analyzed over and over again, where people first thought it was somebody in a monkey suit or something, but the analysis of that can all confirm that it is an actual creature, an actual Sasquatch. So that was one of the first film ever taken of a Sasquatch that has been proven to be true.
But one event revived Sasquatch fever in the region.
In 2005, a man from Teslin came across a footprint in the mud outside of this small community south of Whitehorse, and soon after, a tuft of hair was located. And there was great suspicion that this may be evidence of a Sasquatch. This footprint was not normal. It didn't match up to any other creatures in the area, and I think there have been rumors circulating around the communities as well up until that point. When this was reported to several news organizations, the CBC, the White Horse Star, and a little later the Yukon News, all reported on this discovery.
At the time, Philip Merchant worked for the Yukon government. It was he who took charge of the investigation.
Well, the first I heard of it was from a conservation officer who was in Teslin, who was asked to come and have a look at some samples and some tracks also. He took a bunch of photographs of the tracks. He collected this sample and that somebody had found at the site. It came to me in the lab. Our lab has done a bunch of hair work, investigative work around kill sites to try to identify predators and that kind of thing. So we've done quite a lot of hair work on wolves, on bears, lynx, various predators. So we knew a bit about hair. You know, certainly all the scientific literature was available to us. When the event was published in the newspaper, I believe Dave Coltman, the University of Alberta, saw a copy or heard of it on CBC or maybe online, I'm not sure. And he contacted us and said, hey, you know, send us a sample of this and we'll run it and see what it comes up with as far as DNA. As he offered, I thought, oh, sure, let's take it to the next step. These are the pages out of the scrapbook that some folks put together for me when I retired, and oddly enough, out of 30 years of working with mammals, the Sasquatch makes it into my scrapbook.
I didn't realize that the incident in Yukon actually prompted a scientific investigation beyond just a simple DNA sample. There was actually a paper written on it.
Well, the paper is just a description of the DNA analysis for DNA molecular geneticists who understand this stuff. You know, most of this is a fairly complex description, and there out there on the limb is the sample from the Sasquatch.
David Thompson is a fiction writer living in Whitehorse. He's had a lifelong passion for the history and culture of Yukon, which has served as inspiration for his novels. For him, the Yukon is the final frontier, the land of endless possibilities. No wonder the Sasquatch legend has captured the imagination of locals.
The main attraction to the Yukon, I think, in the past has been the search for gold. You know, up to about 1850, there was a lot of prospectors in the territory, searching all over, not finding great amounts of gold, but finding promising samples that kept them here. And that contributed a lot to the development of the territory. The fur traders, they were big. You know, the Hudson's Bay Company and the gold miners, as mentioned, and the clergy also came in.
The only major development the area has known was a highway linking it to the south, a link that put an end to the region's once total isolation.
Up to then, it was villages. Whitehorse was a very small town. They built all kinds of buildings for the Army. The Army was in control of the highway. They built headquarters here in Whitehorse at Camp Takiti. And it was, I think it's probably a shock to a lot of people who had lived for so long, a village life, really. And I could remember people saying, you know, how it kind of affected them. It was kind of a stressful time, I would think.
Long before the media took an interest in Bigfoot and Sasquatch, Native American tribes incorporated hairy, bipedal, half-human, half-animal creatures into their legends. Moreover, the word Sasquatch originated in languages spoken by the First Nations in northern British Columbia and southern Yukon.
I am Tlingit, yeah, from Teslin area. I grew up there. My people have always believed in these beings, and I remember as a child growing up, my mom and my grandmas, to keep me quiet, because we lived out on the land, to keep kids quiet, they'd always say, be quiet, you know, the bushman will get you. That's what they referred to him as.
So I know that I've heard stories being born and raised here. I can remember when I was a kid hearing stories of a Sasquatch from First Nation elders, as well as people that were working on the SS Klondike, picking up firewood along the way. They've seen animals that they were quite certain weren't black bear or grizzly bear, and they're quite convinced that it was a Sasquatch.
My husband and I went salmon fishing, netting salmon. This is years back now. We were at our fish camp, and about 5 o'clock in the morning, we heard this god-awful yell. Something I can't describe, but it was so, so loud. and we were all in tents, and everybody, I swear to God, lifted out of their beds, ran out and said, "What was that?" And I looked around, and there's all my cousins. They're outside their tents. What is that? It was so loud. I mean, everybody woke up and were on their feet, like, what is that? And to this day, like, I've never heard anything like that. Somebody was saying, well, was it a bear? No, I know what a bear sounds like. I know the growls, I know those sounds, you know, but I don't know.
I always look for them because we've had lots of sightings here, like in the Yukon. Other people had seen them, and you know. So I'd love to see one. I'm always on the outlook for something good and interesting. Oh, I just probably grab my camera and start taking pictures or chase it or something, you know. I take a picture too, you know.
He had a good stride on him and never looked sideways. That was so strange also. Was it just a dream while I was driving, you know, but it wasn't.
It is north of Whitehorse, 100 kilometers or 62 miles from the capital, that Red Grossinger focuses his efforts to catch the Sasquatch.
So this is it we have right here. We'll take this road along the river, around Long Lake, and we'll go all the way up, and then we'll turn right. Now, there may be a couple of water puddles here, so we have to be careful once we get on that secondary trail. Anyway, so we'll take you guys there for a few minutes and see what's happening. Put it this way, I haven't seen one anywhere around here yet. That'd be nice to see one. So, hey, who knows? Who knows? Because there's been sighting everywhere, so.
It is estimated that over 75% of the region is untouched by human activity. The boreal forest, home of the Sasquatch, is composed almost entirely of black and white spruce. Up here, the average summer temperature is 11 degrees Celsius or 51 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay, let's get at it then.
I'm not an outdoor person, not like it. We go camping, but I prefer a trailer and the convenience.
If we're not back within 3 days, Marie, we're stuck somewhere.
No, we got
Oh, we got phone. Oh, yeah, we got phone nowadays. There we are. So we'll jump in the truck.
Well, I look at a few of his things. I read his book.
Oh, I got a light Sasquatch research kit. GPS, they important because it show you where we see something. Camera, VCR, that kind of stuff. I got night visions and a trail camera as well. Never know.
I have to see one.
A bit of sightseeing, so we'll take over the road. I try to go out as often as possible, checking different places where there has been other sighting or reports.
I think folks up here, as in many small communities, smaller communities are more laid back. I think folks are a lot more in touch with nature. That's a bit of a cliche, but it's so true in very remote places like the Yukon and I think Northwest Territories and Nunavut, where there's not a lot of urban sprawl at all. When you're outside of small urban centers, all you have are the trees, or depending on how north you are, how far north, the tundra. So there is a real engagement with the wilderness surrounding you. Hunting licenses and permits are incredibly cheap up here. It's not uncommon to come across people with trap lines nearby, or to have fed themselves 25% on moose stored in their deep freeze for the winter. So there is an engagement with nature and a laid-back attitude, I would say.
What evidence does Red Grossinger look for in the forest? Broken tree trunks, which he says can only be the work of the Sasquatch.
Now this tree was broken probably a little while back. This tree sap here that's almost dry, yeah. And it would probably be broken coming down this way, yet it has been moved over there. But there's nothing here that the wind would have caught. And this is well protected, so how did that happen? A human being had to be awfully strong to grab a tree like that and break it. I know I can't. Now, if Sasquatch was to break that, would I put a hand somewhere here, like that? That's 5 feet, yeah. So I'll venture a little way here and see if there's anything else. I'm against shooting it now. In order to have absolute proof, the scientists would require a dead body. Now, if you happen to shoot one and find a dead one, remove the head. Take the head with you at least. Nothing else, take the head.
Most Sasquatch witnesses are struck by its deafening cry. So Red Grossinger has perfected his own Sasquatch call to attract the monster.
Sometimes we call them to see if they would respond, but usually that takes a little while.
Will the Sasquatch answer Grossinger's call?
Nothing. Oh, that could only could respond quite a bit later. It has different sounds. Some of the sound is like go whoop. Some of the sound is whoop. It all depends. It's if a person was able to do an interpretation of each type of call, they'd be able to understand something better. For example, coyote have an ability to have different sounds, and even for a small animal, it still can really have a very loud voice. So a lot of people mistake coyote for that.
But where could the Sasquatch have come from? Grant Zazula is a paleontologist working for the Yukon government. He specializes in the study of fossilized remains.
Well, a paleontologist is a person that studies ancient life, plants and animals of the past. And in the Yukon, we have a very impressive record of Ice Age mammals that are preserved in the frozen permafrost of the Yukon. So the paleontology program works to go and collect Ice Age fossils of mammoths and short-faced bears and Ice Age lions and animals such as this, and we do research and try to educate the public on these sort of topics. Well, the Yukon Beringia Interpretive Center was built in 1996, and it's basically a facility to tell the story of Beringia, which is the Ice Age landscape which connected Asia with North America during the Ice Age. And it was also the landscape of the first people who lived in North America used to migrate from Asia into this continent. So Beringia is a pretty important place scientifically, for sure.
Could the Sasquatch have miraculously survived the Ice Age? Red Grossinger explains the theory first developed by the American anthropologist Grover Krantz. If so, the Sasquatch's most likely ancestor would be the Gigantopithecus, a giant gorilla thought to have been extinct for 100,000 years.
This guy here, Grover Krantz, he was a professor at the University of Wisconsin. And this is what he made of Gigantopithecus right here. So that is what he believes, and many people believe, the ancestor of the North American Sasquatch. And basically they came here during what has been called the last Ice Age. So they were First Nation coming in, animals, everything from Asia came across. And the theory is, and I believe in that, is that Gigantopithecus came across as well.
Around 13 or 14,000 years ago, global climates start to warm up substantially, and glaciers on the continents melt, sea level starts to rise, and this grassland, the steppe tundra grassland, starts to become transformed back into a boreal forest like we have today. And that time also was an important time because of the extinctions of a lot of these Ice Age mammals. So woolly mammoths